Hello and welcome back to the Clark and Miller English podcast. My name's Gabriel, I am the Clark in Clark and Miller, and welcome back. And if it's your first time listening, welcome. Today we're going to do another red episode. You may have noticed that the cover, the image for this episode is actually red, not our usual blue. Our usual blue is for podcasts that are basically more like English lessons or advice for learning English or grammar, vocabulary, whatever, something like that. But the red ones are the more spicy ones. They're a little bit harder, that's for sure, because we look into language in detail. It's more a sort of exploration of the weird and wonderful thing that the English language is. And today is no exception. We're going pretty hardcore today. We're going to look at what is called Grice's maxims. That will make no sense to you right now, but by the end of this one, you should understand what that means. When someone says Grice's maxims to you in a conversation at a dinner party, you can say, "Oh yeah, it's Grice's maxim," and sound very intelligent and smart and witty. So we're going to look at Grice's maxims. This is basically linguistic philosophy. It's a sort of philosophical linguistic concept, and I'm going to be discussing it with one of my oldest friends, Ali, who is not a linguist at all. He's just a guy, and he's got a very curious mind, and he likes talking about stuff. So it should be an interesting listen. I'm not going to go into the details, really. Just check it out, and there'll also be a PDF that outlines the main concepts of this podcast, this episode, which you can get from the Clark and Miller website. That's clarkandmiller.com. Clark like Clark Kent, and Miller like the beer. All right, so yeah, I'll just leave you to it. Here we are in Istanbul talking about Grice's maxims. All right, so I'm here with Ali. He's sitting right in front of me now. Hi, Ali. How's it going?
Hi, I'm fine. And you?
Yeah, I'm good. Do you want to introduce yourself a little bit, Ali?
Yeah. My name is Ali Erol. I'm a musician, musicologist, and French teacher. I live in between Istanbul and Montpellier, France. Okay.
You're also an English learner, right?
Yeah, I've been for the last 15 years, I guess, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You're still in the never-ending journey of learning a language.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the reason I got Ali here today is because Ali's really good at asking questions, and he's really, really curious about everything. So I thought it'd be quite good to talk through the ideas I've got for the podcast today with Ali, because we can flesh it out, we can start exploring it even deeper than I probably planned.
Let's go for it.
Let's do it. So, Ali, you know nothing about what we're doing today, right?
No.
That's great. Cool. So, we'll get onto that in a little bit, but at the beginning of each podcast, I like to do a little quiz, a little one-question quiz about language and about the English language. And today's question is, do you know what the longest word in English is that doesn't have any vowels?
No idea.
Okay. Well, stay tuned and you can find the answer at the end of this podcast. So that was, which word in English is the longest word without any vowels? Nothing's coming to mind?
No.
No ideas? Okay. You have to wait and see. The tension will be really immense. Okay, but today we're going to talk about a philosophical linguistic concept that I discovered when I was doing my master's in linguistics, and I found it really, really cool, really interesting. And before I kind of reveal what they are, I'm just going to give you some situations, and you just tell me what's wrong with the situation. Okay, so situation one. Are you ready?
Yes, I am.
All right. We're in the kitchen, and I'm making a cake, and you're helping me make the cake. And I ask you to give me some sugar. And then you just give me some salt. What's wrong?
Well, the ingredient, for a start.
Yeah.
But from a linguistic point of view?
Don't think linguistics. Think more like from a social point of view.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
it's so obvious that it's like it's the wrong ingredient.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, basically. Okay, situation 2. I'm fixing my bike. You're helping me again, and then I want some screws. You know screws, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I asked for 2 screws because I need 2 screws. Then you give me 1 screw, or you give me 3 screws. What's wrong?
The number.
Yeah.
Yeah.
From like it's not helpful, right?
Well, I mean, if it's more than enough, it should be like fine. But
Yeah.
you will just throw away. So
Yeah. Maybe I'll drop 1 and it will come in handy. Maybe. Yeah, you're right. 3's more useful than 1 when you need 2.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. We're on to it. Next one. Back to the cake. You're helping me with the cake, and I'm mixing the ingredients together, and it's almost finished. And then randomly, you just give me a good book. Maybe it's like a Dickens book or something. You just give me the book while I'm mixing the cake. What's going on?
That I'm interrupting your sacred process of cooking.
Yeah. I mean, Dickens is good, right? Like, it's good to have a Dickens book. But yeah, something's a bit weird about that, right?
Yeah.
All right. Last one.
All right.
We're back at fixing the bike again. In the garage, fixing the bike. And I'm trying to fix the bike. But you're just tapping the seat. And you're looking at me. And you're tapping the seat with your hands. Just and you're just looking at me and tapping the seat.
Yeah.
That's all. Right?
Well, I was drummer. You know?
Right? Yeah? Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's wrong with it? I don't know. Maybe it can interrupt.
Right, yeah. And also you're looking at me and you're trying to signal. Yeah, it's like you're trying to say something, but you don't say something.
Yeah, it's pretty awkward.
Yeah, pretty awkward, weird as well. After that, you just start smashing the bike up. What's wrong there? You just destroy the bike, kicking the hell out of the bike.
Well,
Is that
everything.
helpful? Is that helpful, Ali?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I mean, you can buy a new bike, you know.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe I kind of like to... I'm the guy who says that it's irreparable and you have to buy a new bike.
By making it irreparable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you're immediately looking for a reason and for a purpose behind this behavior, right? So it's obviously really erratic, strange behavior, but you are, like, as a human, searching for rationale behind it. Yeah. Today, we're going to talk about the ideas of a guy called Paul Grice, who was a linguistic philosopher. This stuff's all quite old. Like, it's most of the stuff here was developed in the 1970s. Paul Grice defined effective communication as, I'm going to quote, a common purpose, a mutually accepted direction. Right, so when both people have, like, going towards the same goal in whatever it is they're doing with their communication. And he describes effective communication as the cooperative principle. So yeah, what is kind of easy to figure out what he means, right? The cooperative principle is just like the fact that when we're communicating, we both have the same purpose and the same goal. Yeah. And that's really important, right? Okay. So he created 4 maxims for the cooperative principle contains. It's a principle that governs all conversational communication, the cooperative principle. Something we obey in order to communicate successfully. I'm going to quote him again. He said, "Make your contribution such as is required at the stage at which it occurs by an accepted purpose or direction of the talk exchange in which you are engaged." Okay.
Yeah.
It's a philosopher's...
It is complex.
It's a bit complex. But I think it's also really simple. Because it's like... Yeah, I guess the thing is, it's just like, to communicate well, you have to communicate well. It doesn't mean much. But... he's broken it all down into 4 maxims, right? He calls them maxims. He doesn't call them rules, because we'll see why later. So, are you ready? One by one. And the maxims are related to the cake and bicycle examples from the beginning of the podcast.
Okay.
All right. First one is the Maxim of Quality. Okay. That's broken into 2... a super maxim and some sub maxims. Okay, you're still with me?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So the maxim of quality
you have to make your contribution true. And he says you don't say what you believe to be false, and don't say that for which you lack sufficient evidence. So yeah, basically, don't lie or don't speak out of your ass. Basically, that's what it is.
Just say something if you know about it, right?
Yeah, like, I guess there's two sides, isn't there? So there's like, don't just say a lie, you know, and don't, like you said, don't talk about stuff you don't really understand, I guess. Yeah. Okay, so do you remember when we were talking about making the cake, and you gave me salt instead of sugar? Yeah, that's the metaphor for this maxim. Because in a way, that's a communication, right? All communication isn't words. It's also what you do is a form of communication. Yeah. So when you gave me salt when I was trying to make a cake, you were violating the maxim of quality. See what I mean?
How dare I?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're a bastard. You broke my bike. Okay, so far so good, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no comments yet, because straightforward. Okay, so basically, don't lie. Yeah, and here's Grice talking about the maxim of quality. I expect your contributions to be genuine and not spurious. If I need sugar as an ingredient in the cake you are assisting me to make, I do not expect you to hand me the salt. And I like this bit. If I need a spoon, I do not expect a trick spoon made of rubber. I mean, yeah, it's a random example. I thought it was quite funny. But yeah, okay. So let's think about the real world, and like when we're speaking and communicating with words. Can you think of an example of someone breaking this maxim? Not a real example, just like how would you create an example?
Give me one.
All right, I got a couple. Hello, nice to meet you. My name is Brad Pitt, and I see dead people. Like, it's not true.
Yeah, and also it makes a reference to a movie in which he wasn't playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of confusing.
Also, it's confusing. Actually, that's a good point. That might be breaking another maxim, one of the later maxims too. But yeah, it's also not true.
Yeah.
And also, Brad Pitt doesn't see dead people anyway.
Yeah, probably.
Well, we don't know.
We hope so.
Yeah, I hope for his sake. I mean, by most accounts,
he's
he's a
been
nice
fighting
guy.
zombies, but yeah.
Yeah. The zombies in his mind. Okay, so I'm just saying I'm Brad Pitt and I see dead people. Not true.
Okay.
So I'm breaking the maxim of quality.
All right.
Another one. Aliens are going to invade and turn Donald Trump into a cactus in April 2021.
Yeah.
Right.
It would be nice.
It would be nice. I'd like to. He'd make a really good cactus, I think. But I have no evidence to support this claim at all.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
totally,
it's like lying, but lying. Yeah, it's like bullshitting, I suppose, instead of lying.
There's a lack of evidence.
Yeah, I mean, precisely. Okay, cool. All good. Yeah, no problem. Okay, so that's the maxim of quality. Next one is the maxim of quantity. Okay, maxim of quantity. Can you guess what it is?
Well, it was the screw thing.
It was the screw thing. Good one. Yeah. So what do you think it sort of says?
Like, I don't know, man. Just tell me.
All right, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. The maxim of quantity. Make your contribution as informative as required. Don't make your contribution more informative than required. Technically, that could have an indirect effect on, like, it can confuse people.
Yeah.
So, either basically say enough, no more, no less. Don't say not enough, and don't say too much.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah.
So far, all this stuff is kind of really obvious, but it's kind of cool, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Okay. So again, this is his quote from the book. It was in his example, he was fixing a car, but I don't drive, so I'm fixing a bicycle.
Yeah.
But he said, if you are assisting me to mend a car, I expect your contribution to be neither more nor less than is required. If, for example, at a particular stage I need 4 screws, I expect you to hand me 4 rather than 2 or 6. All right, cool. It's the screw example.
Yeah.
So can you think of any examples in language when people can violate or break this maxim?
It's if it's only about quantity, like it can happen anytime.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Like with money as well.
Oh, good one.
Yeah, like if you go to a foreign country and you buy something, and like if you don't understand well the seller or it can be problematic.
This is a really good example because you're talking about communication problems with language, like second language communication problems, right?
Yeah, and the quantity of money.
Yeah.
Amount of money thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know if it's related, but
yeah, no, that's a good example.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've got some examples for language.
All right.
You ready? Could you ask me the question I've written down on the card?
Who was Hitler?
Okay.
Hitler.
Who was Hitler, you ask? He was a vegetarian painter who got into politics.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is true, but it's impartial.
It's missing some really important information there, right? Yeah. So I'm not breaking the first maxim of quality. I'm still telling the truth. But there's very important things missing there.
What you've done was a bit like censorship, actually.
By
you
not
censored Hitler.
I actually even made him sound quite nice. A vegetarian who gets gone into politics. It's like, oh, he sounds nice. So this is an understatement. Okay. You ready for the next question you're going to ask me?
Yeah. Are you free this weekend?
Oh, good question. Well, I'm going to have a bath, probably with the lavender bubble bath that my mum got me for Christmas that year that Uncle Barry ate too much cake and was sick in the garden. Then I'm thinking of cutting my toenails really, really well with a new nail cutter. Then I haven't decided whether I'm going to rewatch Breaking Bad or not.
That was a bit noisy.
Yeah. It was a noisy answer. Yeah.
Yeah, too much information.
Too much information, yeah. Okay. So these are really simple, like, concepts, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Tell me.
Okay, the first one was about telling the truth, right? Okay. The maxim of quality. And this one?
This one was about quantity?
Yeah. Okay, cool. And now we're on to the third one.
Yeah.
Okay. The maxim of relation, or the maxim of relevance. Okay. And it's really simple. It's be relevant. That's all he says about it. So his example again, we're going back to the cake, I think. I expect a partner's contribution to be appropriate to the immediate needs at each stage of the transaction. If I'm mixing ingredients for a cake, I do not expect to be handed a good book or even an oven cloth, though this may be an appropriate contribution at a later stage. I like the way he writes. It's a little bit old-fashioned.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but you got it, right? It's be relevant.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you think of any examples?
Actually, no, not really. Can you give me one?
Yeah, I'll give you one. A policeman's asking someone, where were you on the night of the murder? And then the other guy goes, oh, I like your jacket.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So it can go that far, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, extreme examples are good ones to come up with first, right?
So it's the book thing, right? From the example.
Yeah, when you gave me a Charles Dickens book.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I got one more example. How can you possibly tolerate being a teacher when you hate bottled water? Doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, my examples are extreme. They're not very everyday examples, but like they're just there to illustrate the example, illustrate the thing. Okay, so that's really simple. So we got three, right? The first one was.
The first one was what was it?
Brad Pitt.
Yeah, like. Dude, I can't memorize.
Okay, don't worry about it. It's cool. Okay, Brad Pitt. That was telling the truth.
Yeah, telling the truth.
Yeah, and the second one.
Quantity and relevance.
And then we got relevance. Cool. And the last one is the maxim of manner. Avoid obscurity of expression, avoid ambiguity, be brief, and be orderly. So essentially, after reading a bunch about it, I just understand it as be clear and organized. That's it. That's all. Can you remember the example from the beginning? It was with the bike.
Yeah, well, which one? Like which?
Well, so being orderly, for example. When you smashed my bike up.
Yeah.
That was an example of... Yeah. So he says like... Oh, actually, he doesn't have any examples for this one, which I thought was a bit weird. So I made up the one of you smashing my bike up.
Okay.
Yeah, because, bikes.
Okay, can you give another example?
Yeah. So a language example. This is... I had fun making these. Here's one. I want that many drivers spaghetti Jupiter. It's completely, like, nonsense.
Yeah.
Right? So, yeah, it's obscure. Like, impossible to understand what's going on. I want you to ask me another question.
Okay.
You can read it from here, actually.
Do we have enough money for the trip to Spain?
They say that 2 birds can fly only at night. I see what I did there. Yeah, I guess that's like is. Oh yeah, okay. One more. Ask me the time.
What time is it?
Do some acting.
What time is it?
That's brilliant. One more time.
What time is it? All right.
Cool. So there you go. Like it's just like bleh, like the maxim of manner. I guess there's also like, I suppose you could be rude and stuff like that within that as well. But that gets complicated and cultural stuff.
So telling the truth, quantity, relevance, and just being normal.
Not being a freak. Yeah. So it's like, it's called manner. So I guess it covers a lot of stuff, like being clear and not being a weirdo. Cool. Yeah. Well done. And it says here recap, and you just did that.
Yeah.
Cool. So far, so good. Really simple, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and in a way, these are really obvious, right? So, like, why are we talking about this? Why are we going on about this? Well, so are these rules? Do you think these are rules for language? For communication?
Well, honestly, I kind of like weird and absurd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So these, I mean, I guess in a foreign situation where you go to another country or you speak to someone who doesn't maybe speak well the language in which you are speaking, or it's the case for you, you're not a good speaker. I think these kind of principles can be important to get the communication, like to understand each other. But I don't know, I didn't feel like it's like rules that we must all respect and stuff.
I mean, if you go back to thinking about the way you communicate with someone you know really well, like, do you follow these rules all the time? Well,
no, I would definitely not.
Yeah, we don't, right? Yeah, we're too weird.
Yeah.
So, these are not rules, and Grice himself doesn't say they're rules. They're kind of descriptions of what happens. What Grice is observing is the stuff that makes communication work, that makes interactions flow most often. But are we really like this all the time? Are we this direct? Are we this literal when we communicate with people? I guess we're not, right? When we're talking to our friends or our partners or people we know really well, we don't. So if I say, hey man, how was the weekend? Do you always say, there were good parts and there were bad parts and I slept? Is that your answer to how was the weekend?
Actually, it's a very good answer, but we don't say that.
We don't say that, right? We're not this direct and literal about everything. If I say, what do you think of Brian? Is it normal to say, I think he's a human man? Because that's actually answering the question, right? And again, it's completely following the maxims, Grice's maxims, right? The 4 maxims. When we ask a question or make a statement or just say something during a conversation, we're kind of expecting a certain type of response, right? Like language is kind of a code, like a computer program. So these maxims are all about like what we expect from people in a standard, like, I like comparing language just like a computer code,
it's
right?
a bit like coding, actually.
Yeah. And so, we have these maxims, and this is all about what we expect. But we always, as humans, we always play with expectations, right? We like subverting them. We like changing them around a bit. It's fun. And it makes communication more interesting. So, we're going to look at now how the maxims are not followed. Okay. We see non-observance of the maxims. Something interesting. When we see non-observance, when we see people not following these maxims, something interesting is happening in human communication. We see non-direct communication. Meaning is not being conveyed directly. So let's look at some examples. First we're going to look at how when people sometimes break these maxims and it breaks the communication, right? And it breaks the cooperative principle. Okay. So, when we looked at the examples, when I told you Hitler was a vegetarian artist, and when I said that I was Brad Pitt, we're breaking the cooperative principle. Communication is being broken down. when we do this on purpose, it's called violating the maxims. Yeah.
Or joking.
Well, joking is actually a little slightly different thing that we'll see later.
Okay.
There's violating the maxims and flaunting the maxims.
Okay.
So violation is when we kill communication, right?
Yeah.
I remember watching a sketch, which we may or may not sample. There's a stand-up comedian, American guy, and he's in Britain. And he's talking about his experience living in Britain, right?
And just like I say, I run into the way y'all talk. Because, British people, y'all have a lot of subtext. And y'all like stuff like irony and sarcasm, tongue-in-cheek. Man, clever ways to be indirect about what you think. No, man, sometimes a British person can insult me, and it takes me 3 weeks to figure it out, man. I'd be home hoovering one day, and I'd be like, bastard don't like me.
So this is a stand-up show, but it's kind of true. Like in England, people are very, very, they're changing the subtext with everything. They have subtext with everything.
I agree.
Yeah, it's quite common. So this is a cultural thing. Very, very indirect. Now, there are less nasty ways. So obviously he's talking about a time when someone was like insulting him, but sarcastically or something, without him realizing. Okay, so we have different types of doing this, of violating the maxims, right? We can have an infringement. So this is when you have a total misunderstanding. So you're talking a lot about second language situations, right? When you don't know the language very well. So when a classic example is if I say hey, do you want tea or coffee? And you just say yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. This isn't the person who says yes isn't trying to be difficult. They just don't understand how the language functions there.
Yeah, or maybe yeah.
Yeah, misunderstandings from our second languages. We get it all the time, right?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Where's the Jim? Oh, Jim, he's in the kitchen. Yeah, that sort of thing, right? It's just misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's infringement. Sometimes we opt out of the maxims, right? We decide not to follow them. Maybe we'll say something like, my lips are sealed, or I can't tell you that. Or, it's a secret, I'm not telling you. Okay, so that's just choosing to go out.
Yeah.
We can also have a clash, right? So when the maxim of quantity, saying enough, clashes with one of quality, like not having enough evidence. So, if somebody asks, hey, where's Jim now? Where's he gone? And they don't know exactly where he is, but they could say something like, he's somewhere between London and Istanbul. It's not clear, where he is.
It's not obvious.
Yeah. Okay. I read this really cool book, Ian Banks. You know Ian Banks, right?
Heard.
Okay. Yeah,
heard of him, yeah.
He's cool. And he did a lot of sci-fi. And in one of the books, there's this, these guys want to get into a monastery. And the monks who live in the monastery are literal. They take everything literally. So they're knocking on the door, and the monk has got his head outside the window, and he's like, hello. And they're like, can you let us in? And he says, yes. And it's like, will you let us in? I don't know.
It sounds like Monty Python.
It's a bit Monty Python, yeah. So you got this situation where the monk is actually just honestly answering the questions.
Yeah, but not doing anything.
Yeah, because he doesn't interpret, he thinks they're asking about his ability or predicting the future. Yeah. So that's experiencing a clash, right? This monk wants to observe the maxim of quality completely, and all the other stuff is not being observed.
Yeah.
I guess the maxim of manner is not being observed because obviously it's a request. It's not a question. Can you let us in?
Yeah.
Okay, so far so good.
But there's a problem. They ask for it. They can just say, let us in.
Well, yeah, it takes the woman, the character, 3 or 4 attempts. She has to, how am I going to... Yeah, that's the answer, though, isn't it? You have to make it a demand.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
Yeah, totally, yeah. But, it's just we're so used to asking things that way that when we have to do it literally, we really have to rethink it.
So little bit about manners as well, I guess. We generally want something, but we don't say it directly. We ask for it.
Yes, yeah. Yes, that's all tied into manners. Yeah, a lot of this is cultural as well, of course. Like some cultures, like people are more direct.
Yeah, like in Turkish, for instance.
Turkey's quite direct, right? So
yeah, like when people, like if a friend comes at my place and asks water, Ali, where's the water? You know?
Yeah. Or
give me a glass of water.
Give me a glass of water. And it's fine. Yeah. Like Russia as well. Russia's very direct. Like, make me tea. Yeah. So, yeah, it's all cultural. Okay, so, also, one more example is we can suspend a maxim. So this is interesting. I didn't really understand this until I read a few examples. When participants aren't expecting a maxim to be fulfilled, even though it normally would be expected. So, like the example I found that really made me understand this was like in some Native American communities, you shouldn't like name anyone who's dead. You shouldn't say the name of someone who's dead. Right? It's just like a religious thing or a cultural thing, right? Yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah,
I learned that from this from this research. So if you say like, or like when parents want to talk about something, but they don't want their kids to understand, so they might say something like, and then after that we'll go to where, like, or when they say like, maybe we should talk about CHRISTMAS or something like that when they spell it out so the kid doesn't understand. So that's suspending a maxim.
Yeah.
Anyway, so cool. Okay, fine. 4 maxims, and that's that. And it's all really simple. These are all examples. The examples we looked at just now are examples of when this cooperative principle is broken somehow. So like we can't communicate, or the communication's lost for a minute. But like you were talking before, now we get to the interesting stuff, like jokes and stuff like this. Right?
Okay, can I give an interesting example?
Yes.
Start to that maybe.
Okay.
So when I was living in France, I had this crazy friend. Like, we had a bar and a concert hall and exhibition place, and we used to do organizations there. And there was this guy who was really crazy. Actually, he was a crazy guy, Louis. And like each time he used to come quite often, and then when you asked him like, how you doing, Louis? He was like, the first part was okay. He was like, yeah, I'm fine, and how do you do? The normal thing. And then you just like pick a subject and like go on, like open a conversation. And after that, it went totally crazy. I mean, he was all the time. He was like. So what did you do yesterday? Oh, well, yesterday wasn't really, I'm not sure if it was yesterday, but before yesterday I was thinking of the connotation of roosters in Metallica's music. Like, I think there's a real, I'm not joking, like he was really like that, he was like, and this was no joke. I mean, the dude was like, I guess, huge imagination, and each time you asked him a conversation, you asked him a question, you got like really weird answers 90% of the cases.
I've met a couple of people like that.
But it was funny. It was like funny in the sense not weird. Like it was you could go on with that. Oh, roosters. Oh, kind of like I've never thought of that.
I've never thought about it either. I mean,
and James Hetfield, actually, he looks a bit like like you can go in and.
I think Lars Ulrich looks most like a than the others. But yeah, this conversation does go somewhere. Right?
Yeah, and when you reply, he would be happy and he would go on with it.
That's really cool. So yeah, that's cool. So there's a sort of like semi-absurdist personalities, or just really eccentric personalities. Like the other night, the Tim. What's his name again? Tim, your friend who came over.
Timur,
yeah. Like, man, like it's, you just say like, oh, the weather's good today, and then suddenly you're talking about the abstract notion of forgiveness. Like, it's just like, he's just one of those guys.
He has just finished a month long post-PhD craziness.
In philosophy.
In philosophy.
Yeah, you can tell.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of communication isn't all simple, right? It's not like, hello, how are you? Yes, I'm fine. What did you do yesterday? I woke up at 7 o'clock. Like, we don't communicate like that. And these are really cool examples. The Rooster Metallica guy and Nation of Forgiveness guy. And so we flout maxims all the time. So this is deliberately failing to fulfill the maxims, right? But the cooperative principle remains intact. So the communication is still being effective without the maxim, like deliberately without the maxim. Okay. This is when it gets interesting. So it means the speaker knows that. So language is all about the speaker and the listener. It's not it's an organic thing, and it's about the people who use it, right? So when the speaker knows that the listener can read between the lines of what they're saying and understand what she's talking about, this creates conversational implicatures, which is the term that Grice uses. It basically means like implications. And we do it all the time. Right? Yeah. Well, we'll look at some examples, and the more examples we look at, I reckon you'll realize it's really common for us to flout the maxims. This is when human interaction comes to play. What separates us from robots, right? What makes us human and interesting and not boring. So, first, I'm going to give you some questions and think of possible answers for the questions.
All right.
So, question 1, how's Barry's new job?
How's Barry's new
job?
How's
Barry's new job? He's just started a job. How's his job?
Should I answer?
What possible answers are there for this question?
Well, there are two, basically, positive and negative. What was the question again? Sorry.
How's Barry's new job? So let's
it can be I think he's quite happy about it. It's going well. Or it can be, I don't think it's going well, He's quite unhappy with it. He wants to change his job or something. So
we were looking at quite direct answers here, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to this later.
Okay.
But keep that in mind. Question 2. Shall we call Jem? Should we give Jem a call?
Well, again, same thing. Positive or negative.
Okay.
Right?
So you're still thinking within the maxims.
Am I?
Yeah. Which is fine. It's cool. We use them.
Okay.
Can we brainstorm anything else that could be said to that question?
Yeah, except the yes and no.
Yeah, see if we can find anything else.
Oh, well, my cell phone, so it will be no. Well, I can, you can, I don't know, he's dead. I don't know. So it's a no again. I don't know, it's just for me there's
but
positive or negative.
Yeah, but are you saying the positive or the negative, or are you implying the positive or negative with your answer? You can say it. You can say, yes, let's call him, or no, let's not. But very often we would say something else that implies the answer. Like he just said he's dead, for example. Yeah. And you were about to say something about your cell phone, like my cell phone's broken.
Yeah.
That's not answering the question, but it is answering the question.
Yeah, indirectly. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Flouting the maxim of relevance, I guess. Okay,
so we don't need to... Actually, this is one of the things, when I teach my students, it's like sometimes, with all the exercises, yes and no stuff, you expect that, no, I did not do it, I went to kind of answers. But actually, this is an interesting point, direct answers should be included in these kind of exercises.
This stuff's really obvious when we look at course books, right, for language learners. Fill in the gaps, yes or no, yes I did, no I didn't. And it's just what about no, I'm going to bed instead of yes I am, yes I can, or something. I don't know. Yeah. There are a million ways to answer a question, really. Yeah. Third question.
All right.
Where are you from?
I wasn't born.
You might say that for fun, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's explore possible answers, because I've written a few down, but that's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so when you ask these questions, when these questions are asked, when you ask these questions, you have certain types of expectations, right? Like the answers you were providing, especially at the beginning, right? Very binary stuff. and you're expecting a certain sort of response. But the first question about Barry's job, how's Barry's new job? You could say something like, well, he hasn't been arrested yet.
Yeah, but there's a relevance problem there. It's like,
well, it depends. Like, if we know Barry really well and we know that he's used to stealing stuff from work or something, like he's like an unreliable guy, we might, it is flaunting the maxim of relevance, right? But
also, if as you say, like if we know him, it might mean something. So we need the information to back that up.
Always context. Context is everything. Yeah. And the context will determine how the question is answered as well, right? So when we say...
or it can be something like he didn't sleep, he haven't slept yet with the director. I don't know.
Hasn't slept with the boss yet. Yeah. So it does a few things when we answer it like that. Like, we're sort of answering the question. We're saying, like, it's going well so far, is the hidden... answer there, but we're also doing other things. We're building our relationship between us by kind of laughing about what we know about Barry, and the way he loves sleeping with powerful women, or like we're also like building our like little social circle with Barry there as well. It's doing some like kind of strong like social stuff as well as just communicative. Yeah,
exactly. I agree. I totally agree. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Shall we give Jem a call? We can say like something like, "Oh no, the football's on."
So he might be watching it. Or he might be at the stadium or something.
Right. Yeah. And like we both know that Jem loves football and he's going to be watching the match. Yeah. But your answer, "He's dead," is also quite like that does the same thing. Although. If I didn't know that, maybe I'd forgotten that he was dead.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Yeah.
Oh, he died, Well, that's kind of...
Yeah.
It's the most extreme answer you can give.
That's quite extreme. Yeah. But, and also, where are you from? I used to do this a lot when I lived in Turkey, because this is a question, especially as a foreigner, you're asked all the time, like... never listen. Like, where are you from? And it's always friendly and it's nice and it's cool. But after the 100th time in one day, you get a bit sick of it. So I started answering weirdly. So like, where are you from? And I'd say like Jupiter, or like Saturn, or space. And like, what am I saying? I'm not answering the question for sure, but I'm signaling something when I do that.
Do you?
Yeah, like, I guess I'm telling the guy in a funny way to mind his own business.
Yeah. Yeah, I get it,
Yeah. Maybe, it depends.
Or maybe just making a joke,
Yeah, and just having fun.
Yeah.
I'm not answering the question to him, though.
No, you're not.
Yeah, but I'm kind of changing the course of the conversation. Like, I'm saying, like, I don't want to answer this question. But it's still a form of communication. Yeah.
But I kind of understand your point. Like, I used to get that question a lot when I was in France, or when I go to France. And like, in the beginning I used to say from Turkey, then I started saying from Istanbul. Then, you can make quite a lot of jokes
from
about
Ulus
like,
Street.
I'm from one of those countries in the East and stuff like that.
Yeah, and like how you respond... it gives off lots of signals, because it shows you have a sense of humour. It shows that you're quite aware, like, of cultural implications about where you're from, and it's providing more than just the answer. Whereas providing the answer directly just provides the answer. That's why I love implicatures.
Also, the connotation is when you say I'm from Turkey or I'm Turkish, it sounds like I mean, for 90% of people, I guess it's normal, and for me as well. We got used to saying stuff like this, but it's still sometimes. That's one of the reasons why I prefer to say I'm from Istanbul, to kind of like get rid of all the connotations, political or racial, whatever stuff.
All of this stuff's really important, isn't it, for identity, and also signaling your identity to people. Like, I have the same thing with being British or being English. Like, I'm both.
Yeah.
I kind of prefer to be British than English because with the history of England. But then, other people use it to signal their patriotism as well, or their nationalism. Like, oh, I'm English. Like it could be a signal as well. So yeah, it's all very powerful.
Just a small question. Can you say I'm from United Kingdom?
Yeah. Yeah. And also, it's a bit unusual, but I guess if somebody does say that, they're creating... It's not an implicature because they're actually following the maxim, right? They're actually answering a question, but it's still a signal, isn't it?
It's a bit heavy.
Yeah. It shows you might want to be more diplomatic about where you're from. Because the United Kingdom, I guess, is maybe more neutral than saying you're British or saying you're English.
But also there's a difference between saying UK and United Kingdom.
Oh, right. Like
in the same way,
sentence.
like I'm from United States of America and you, or I'm from US, or I'm from States.
Yeah, all of this signals different stuff, right? Yeah.
Okay, close the parenthesis.
No, it's cool. It's interesting, and could talk about it for hours. But yeah, cool. So back to implicatures. Okay, so you were talking about joking, right? So let's look at each of the maxims and see how they can be flouted. So we've seen that like flouting maxims is actually in a way more communicative than not flouting the maxims, right? Okay, so Maxim of Quality, about lying. Sarcasm. When we're sarcastic, when someone is sarcastic to you...
Oh, I have a great example.
Yeah, go on.
Where are you from? Why would you care, white boy? So that would be really sarcastic. Right?
Yeah, that's sarcasm. But also like when you're so I got examples here, like let's talk about Barry again. All right, so let's say Barry is at work and like he's he slept with the boss again and he's going to get fired, and he comes like we go and see Barry and he tells us what's happened, and we say, good move, Barry, or like well done. Well done, Barry.
It's more ironic than sarcastic, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's another issue. What's the difference between irony and sarcasm? Because they overlap, right?
Yeah.
It's definitely sarcastic, right? Because you're being a bit kind of aggressive. Like the signal is like, oh, you're an idiot, Barry. Well done, Barry. You're stupid. Like, well done. Good move. Yeah. But like, you can see how we're like flouting. We're not following the maxim, yet we're still providing a very clear signal. There's no ambiguity at all. Yeah.
The point is clear.
Yeah. Barry knows what we're saying. Or like, when you say like, where are you from? And we talked about this already. And I say Jupiter, and the implication is leave me alone. Don't talk to me about this. Or we can use it for metaphors as well. Like flouting the maxim of quality. So somebody can say, I married a rat. Like, we doubt she married a rat, like a physical rat. But what's the implication?
That your wife eats too much.
Oh, you're thinking about food.
I don't know. I just
rats eat a lot, right? Or I got it down. My husband is a bastard.
Okay.
Yeah, I married a rat.
So rat has that kind of connotation.
I guess it is. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because like my girlfriend Zeynep, she likes biting stuff. So that's why I call her like mouse,
like
not
a rat
or
mouse.
Rat.
Nicer, nicer.
So I thought of that.
Cool. Well, there you go. And like when you call her a mouse, she's not a mouse. You're implying that she bites things a lot. Yeah.
No, at some point it was weird because I used to go to the kitchen. I didn't know if it was a rat or her because it was just bitten. So kind of, but yeah, like contextual, cultural.
Sometimes I can't tell the difference between my partner and a rat.
Also, I have another example, dude.
Yeah, do it.
This is one of those things I shouldn't have said. Like at some point, I was really into whales. Like really, I kind of love them. And one of my ex-girlfriends, I told her my little whale, and she didn't like it at all.
Oh.
Because, whale is huge.
They're big. The implications that she's fat.
Yeah, it's a mammifère. How do you say mammifère?
I don't know.
Mammal.
Yeah, it's a mammal, yeah.
It's a mammal and big and, so she was like, oh no, don't say that to me. And then I learned that in French, when you say t'es une baleine to a person, it means you're fat. You are fat, huge, big,
yeah.
stuff like that.
That makes sense. Whales are big.
Yeah, they are big. But I mean, even if there was little in it, it didn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's the cultural aspect in it.
Yeah, and that's I guess when we were talking earlier about when language and culture can cause accidental misunderstanding. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, these are good examples. Bring them on. Okay, maxim of quantity. How can we flout the maxim of quantity, but keep it as a communicative thing? We're still sending strong signals. It's not easy to think of examples, but if you can.
Well, give me one.
Yeah, it took me ages to come up with examples for this. So, I don't know, let's say there's a group of people who've been working together, and there's like two teams of people, and something has happened with the project, and it's becoming really successful. So person A says, so we're going to be rich, right? And person B says, we are.
Oh.
Meaning, not you, us.
Oh, that's a tricky one.
Yeah, it's hard to come up with examples, but I found a few. But you know that sort of situation, right? When someone's like implying, you creating an implicature like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. One more example. This one's probably a bit more common. It's like, so did you pay the electricity bill and do the shopping? Answer, well, I did the shopping. What does that mean? So, did you pay the bill and do the shopping? I did the shopping.
Well, it implies that the person did not pay.
Didn't do the bill, right? Yeah.
Or and couldn't pay, maybe. I don't know.
For some reason. But like, just by answering like that, that person is clearly signaling that they didn't pay the bill without saying it.
Yeah.
Cool. That was a better example. More everyday.
Yeah, but I like the first one. It was like, it was,
You liked it because it was more aggressive.
It was more aggressive, but also like, like, I don't know, subtle.
Yeah. And there's a lot, some of it's really subtle. I guess, like, the more people know each other, like, you know, the speaker and the listener, the more they know each other, the more subtle this stuff gets. Yeah. Cool, okay. Maxim of...
but by the way, it can be just a simple thing as well, right? Like, sometimes on the phone, like, I don't know, say, let's meet at 6, like, wow, that doesn't exist, but in French, you know, we use the 24-hour system.
Okay.
So when you ask someone, let's meet at 16 o'clock, you can answer, 6 o'clock? No, 16 o'clock. That's quantity as well, right?
Is it, like, is it miscommunication, or...?
Yeah, it is a miscommunication, yeah.
No, that would be something more along the lines of manner. Like, you're being obscure, even if it's an accident.
Okay, I understand. Actually, now we are into, like, deliberately said stuff, like, stuff that we say deliberately, not the misunderstandings or... Right,
yeah.
Okay.
So the misunderstandings and stuff, when the communication breaks down, that's, like, violation. And now we're on the fun stuff, is when it's deliberate and it's flaunting.
All right.
But yeah, that's a good example of a violation of the maxim of manner.
Okay.
You know, like when you broke my bike.
Yeah.
I'm not letting that go. I'm gonna keep mentioning that for the rest, not just this episode, but for the whole podcast.
Okay.
I will remind you that you destroyed my bicycle.
What you gonna do about it, man?
You can use
car, you know.
Yeah, I can't drive. But yeah, cool. Yeah. So, maxim of relevance. How can we flout the maxim of relevance to create interesting linguistic signals? You broke my bike, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, Ali, man, when are you gonna pay for this? Are you gonna give me like some money for this bike? For the bike, you just destroyed it. You mongoose. Quite a good term, that, mongoose.
Yeah. If someone breaks your bike, you say that.
And you answer just by going, cup of tea.
Well,
like, you're sending a signal, right?
Yeah, like, I'm not going to do anything about it, right?
Yeah. And you're saying that by changing the subject deliberately.
What an asshole.
Yeah, that's you. I like that bike. Yeah, cool. And also, going back to Barry, we do get to do a Barry thing. Maxim of relevance. How's Barry? How's his new job going? And you say, well, he hasn't been fired yet. Right. It's like... It's not relevant, but it is relevant. Maxim, flouting the maxim of manner. Remember, the maxim of manner is about being like clear and well organized. So let's say there's a governmental organization, right? And they have to be very careful about what they do because they do some things that maybe it's best that people didn't know about, right? And when they're talking about things, they have to be very careful about how they talk about things so that they're not considered guilty in any stage of something. Okay, so you will hear lots of interesting phrases in these in these language environments, right? Things like, I wouldn't, in theory, be completely adverse to that outcome. Yeah, what's the implication there? The implication is like, I can't tell you directly, but I can imply it, and I think it's a good idea, but I'm not going to say that.
That's very diplomatic.
Yeah. And like business and law and
well.
politics, like we get a lot of that sort of stuff, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. People who can't be accountable, so they have to imply indirectly.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
All right, so let's look at some examples from the real world of how maxims get flouted. Comedy is a really obvious example, right? Comedy only works when maxims are flouted. Another quote.
Yeah.
This one makes more sense. Let's make this party fast and furious in that order.
In which order? I know.
Well, he said fast and then furious. So let's make the party
in that order,
fast.
yeah.
I mean, it's just strange because I guess you're expecting, like, fast and furious is just like a phrase, right?
Yeah.
And it has one meaning in itself. So he's dissecting it into two meanings, which doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So I guess, that would be the maxim of manner, I guess, as being obscure. Yeah, cool. Yeah. One guy is saying, "You're the best, kiddo," and her reply is, "Do you know what else was the best? The rainforest. Too bad the fascist oligarchs are raping them to make hamburgers." So it's like, it's all true, but it's not very relevant, right? So she's breaking the maximum. It's quite a funny one. Yeah. Okay. Another example. My brother is a big fan of this T-shirt company who make weird T-shirts. I think they're called Slightly Wrong T-shirts or Slightly Wrong Designs. And my favorite one is it just says Alan in the logo of Alien, like the film. It just says Alan. And it says, "In space, nobody can hear you scream when you're in space." It's really good, right?
Yeah.
So this is like total violation of the maxim of quantity, right? Because in space and in space is repeated, but that's really funny.
Yeah. I liked it. The T-shirts are a good example, man. I guess there are a lot of... Also, like, maybe like writing, stencils, street art. Like, they are kind of like playing quite a lot with those things.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, especially graffiti. Yeah. I saw one in my parents' hometown. It was there for ages. It just said, "Love is metaphysical gravity." Makes
Quite
you think.
nice.
Yeah, it's very nice, isn't it? Yeah, you just like walk past that and it's cool.
Also, like, it's an example. It might be an example. We used to choose like slogans for slogans for each concert we organized. It was the collective construct, and one of them was like, I can't forget it. I find it super, like, really perfect. Also, it's really simple. But, no woman, Nokia.
No woman, no what?
No woman, Nokia.
No woman, Nokia.
Yeah.
That's good. So I guess subversion is quite a good one because it's like subverting the original message. Yeah.
But which maxim? This
no woman, Nokia. I guess it's violating the maxim of manner because it doesn't really make sense.
Yeah.
It's absurdist. So it would be manner. It's obscure. It's like when you broke my bike.
Yeah, so most of the absurd stuff is violating the manner.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because some of it it lacks so much meaning that it can't really be violating the other ones. Yeah. Because we both have very strong Dadaist like sense of humor, right? So I guess we come across this violation or the flouting.
Yeah, quite a lot.
That's how it is. Yeah. A lot of Monty Python is flouting the maxim of manner. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Mm-hmm. So there's a character in Little Britain, and she's called Vicky Pollard, and she's very good at like just giving far too much information whenever anyone asks her a question. Right? She's guilty for everything all the time, and she's trying to avoid guilt. That's kind of where the comedy comes from. So here are some fun Vicky Pollard quotes. You ready? I'll try and do a voice. They don't scare me. Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got. I'm just Vicky Pollard from round the corner from the block. V to the P, to the icky, to the Ollard. Nonsense. Yeah. Total nonsense. Bus conductor asks her, look, I've warned you before. If you don't have a ticket, you're going to have to get off. Her answer, oh my God, that is so unfair. This is like, well, sexual harassment. If you like, fancy me. Why didn't you just say so? God, this is exactly like the time Miss Raining, who everyone knows is a total lesbian, made Candice Burton stay behind after PE, started telling her off for gobbing on Suncha Geshwani's hair. But everyone knows she only made her stay at last because she wanted to get off with her, because she was telling her off her legs were wide open and Candice reckons she could see a spider.
Wow.
Yeah. That's an answer. So yeah, what's that flouting? That's like extreme flouting, right? Maxim of relevance?
Yeah, there's that.
And quantity, I guess.
Yeah.
And maybe manner. So I guess, yeah, extreme flouting is funny, right? When people, like, just... Yeah, so that's where the humour comes from that, I think. I will not try and do any more Vicky Pollard impressions because I'm failing. But okay, so that's that. Also, I saw a really good example in writing. Have you ever read any Ian McEwan?
No.
Okay, he's a really good writer, and he wrote this book called Enduring Love, and it was the most gripping book I've ever read. Only in the sense that halfway through the first page, like really, really close to the beginning, I was hooked. So, if you want to sit back for a bit, I'm going to read you the introduction of Enduring Love.
Yeah.
It's a few pages, but you'll see what's happening. I think what's happening here is that he is seriously flouting the maxim of quantity. He doesn't give you what you need to know. Okay. And it makes it really interesting. So here we go. The beginning is simple to mark. We were in sunlight under a turkey oak, partly protected from a strong gusty wind. I was kneeling on the grass with a corkscrew in my hand, and Clarissa was passing me the bottle, a 1987 Dortmund Gassack. This was the moment, this was the pinprick on the time map. I was stretching out my hand, and as the cool neck and the black foil touched my palm, we heard a man's shout. We turned to look across the field and saw the danger. Next thing, I was running towards it. The transformation was absolute. I don't recall dropping the corkscrew or getting to my feet or making a decision or hearing the caution Clarissa called after me. What idiocy to be racing into this story and its labyrinths, sprinting away from our happiness among the fresh spring grasses by the oak. There was the shout again, and a child's cry, enfeebled by the wind that roared in the tall trees along the hedgerows. I ran faster, and there, suddenly, from different points around the field, 4 other men were converging on the scene, running like me. I see us from 300 feet up through the eyes of a buzzard that I see us from 300 feet up through the eyes of a buzzard we watched earlier, soaring and circling and dipping in the tumult of currents. 5 men running silently towards the centre of a 100-acre field. I approached from the southeast and with the wind at my back. About 200 yards to my left, 2 men ran side by side. They were farm labourers who had been repairing the fence along the field's southern edge where it skirts the road. The same distance beyond them was a motorist, John Logan, whose car was banked on the grass verge with its door or doors wide open. Knowing what I know now, it's odd to evoke the figure of Jed Parry directly ahead of me, emerging from a line of beeches on the far side of the field, 1/4 of a mile away, running into the wind. To the buzzard, Parry and I were tiny forms, our white shirts brilliant against the green, rushing towards each other like lovers, innocent of the grief of this entanglement would bring. The encounter that would unhinge us was minutes away, its enormity disguised from us not only by the barrier of time, but by the colossus in the centre of the field that drew us in with the power of a terrible ratio that set fabulous magnitude against the puny human distress at its base. There's more, right? But you see what's happening?
Yeah, but just say, yeah. I mean, I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I guess I see, yeah.
Yeah, so like, we don't know what's happening, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like it doesn't give the necessary elements so we can understand what the fuck is going on. Actually.
Exactly. Yeah, we got 5 people,
and he makes a lot of description.
Yeah, there's a lot of description, but not the description you're dying to know. Yeah. Why are 5 people running into the middle of a field?
Yeah.
What's the screaming? What's happening?
That's the thing. It's like in the beginning I thought there was a war, like it was a war thing, and then I was like, no, what farmers? What you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want to know what's happening?
What?
Like you find out eventually. It's like there's a hot air balloon in the middle of the field. And the guy is taking his kid on the hot air balloon. But the kid he's fallen out and he's hanging onto a rope and the air balloon's going up. Oh. And he's just hanging from a rope like underneath the air balloon. The father's in the air balloon. So these people see this and they start running towards to try and help. And he's one of the people running towards and trying to help. But he doesn't tell you for ages what's happening. You just have this.
Okay, so even in the book you have like these descriptions and then after he says...
Yeah,
he explains what
finally tells you. Yeah,
kind of weird,
but it's very effective, isn't it? Like you keep reading.
Yeah,
because you have to know what's going on.
You want to understand. Yeah.
There you go. So that's a really good example of flouting.
It's a good technique of selling books.
Yeah. I'll tell you later. We're doing it in the podcast, I guess, because we had the quiz at the beginning of the podcast, right?
Yeah. What was it? Sorry.
Reminder: the quiz from the beginning of the podcast. The longest word in English with no vowels. Yeah, we'll get there to the end. We're almost at the end now. But yeah, so all of this, we've seen how the maxims are flouted in everyday communication. We've seen how it's used in comedy. We've seen how it's used in literature. But we are teachers, are we not?
Yeah.
So... all of this stuff is well and good, but how can we use it in the language classroom? How can we use it for our teaching? What do you think? Like, are there ways we can show our students how to communicate better with this?
Well, there's one thing which is obvious, and you've said it quite a lot in one of the... what were they called?
The maxims.
Yeah, one of the maxims. Like, being brief and using the... shortest words as much as possible and stuff like that. I guess that's kind of like because like if you concentrate on the point and you use the right words and you try to keep short everything, I guess naturally some of these maxims happen, right?
Yeah,
I guess, I don't know.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. So do you mean like encouraging students to be more like efficient with the language use?
Yeah, efficient, brief.
Okay. Yeah. So following the maxim. But what do you think about how we like flaunt the maxims and how that creates stronger communication? Like how can we teach that?
I guess I'm not that good in language teaching.
You're pretty good.
No, it's like I'm not that good in the sense like I haven't studied this. I've been doing this as a job, but like you should say like
okay.
Use of specific techniques in teaching. I'm not that.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen the maxims directly being used in any like teacher training or any methodologies. So I guess one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it. Okay. Also, it's really unfair because you come into the room not knowing anything about this, and I've just told you everything, and now I'm expecting you to.
You should say that, by the way.
Yeah. No, Ali is under extreme duress. It's revenge for the bicycle that he destroyed just before we came here.
I really
today.
had no idea what you were going to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. So that's really important to know. And I've had lots of time. I spent quite a bit of time on this one, and I was trying to think about this. So this is what I've got. I've made some notes. Yeah, this is all about human interaction, right? It's more than just literally the language we use. It's like pragmatic competence, which is the idea of when measuring how good someone is at speaking a foreign language, we have things like grammatical competence and communicative competence, and like these are strong like things that have been measured and talked about by academics. And also, since like the 90s, the concept of pragmatic competence has been valued quite a lot in terms of successful language learning, right? And this is part of it, right? When we say stuff like, he hasn't been arrested yet, or like when we create strong signals and we make jokes and that sort of thing, it's all part of pragmatics. Also, it's cultural. I was thinking about how this is quite strongly cultural. And it's weird because it's paradoxically universal, but also culturally specific. Like every culture seems to do like flout maxims for jokes or flout maxims to create stronger relationships and that sort of thing.
Or weaker relationships.
Also, to
just... we do that stuff to, maybe when we try to get into a fight, or I don't know, or dispute.
Or if there's someone you don't want to see anymore, and you sort of give them some hints that maybe they can stop calling you, for example, to distance yourself. So it's about not being direct, and so it seems that pretty much all cultures do it, but they do it in different ways. Obviously, the signals are different. So first of all, I think it's really important. If we take this to the classroom, if we take this to our students, it's important to give the students a sort of meta-linguistic understanding, right? Like I've done this with high-level students a lot, and I got this like idea of like a hamburger, right? Where you have like three areas of language, right? This is a simplification. There are lots of ways to look at languages, but I teach this to my students sometimes. You've got semantics, right? So this is just words and what they mean.
And their meaning,
Right. Yeah, it's pretty straightforward. You also have syntax, right? So grammar, how to put words together and stuff like that. And a lot of course books and a lot of courses and exams and so on. And a lot of students and a lot of teachers work within that framework alone, right? Just words and how to put them together. But there's also the third part of the hamburger. It's like pragmatics. How we signal stuff, how our social relationships are directed through language. And that's really important. It's a major part of communication and a major part of language. So I think that one step is like making students aware of that. And everyone is aware of that when they think about it. It's like, of course, in my own language too, in my own culture too, we have that too. Everyone has that. Because it is neglected a lot.
I agree.
Yeah, so I think it's good to make students aware of these things, because then they can remember that, like, learning English is not just about being able to answer questions directly and properly.
Yeah, it's also about being pertinent, I guess, in general, like coherent, you know.
Yeah,
and like choosing the right words, focalizing, but also, well, this is the thing. Like, more I learn about stuff, more I feel like there's always a balance, you know. So it's a bit like that. I mean, you cannot think of maxims while you speak a foreign language, but you know, you can find a middle point. Like, you can be relaxed, but also like direct and like precise and yeah. So I guess it's a bit about finding the middle point. But I mean, these elements seem to be really important for the communication to exist. Like, they're like really elementary.
They're important part of communication. And I think it's just nice for students to like be able to look at things from a very like meta point of view, and being able to look down and like just think for a little bit about what language is, because it isn't just providing information and requesting information. It's so much more. It's about creating relationships and so on. And
and the degrees, man, that they are important as well, as you've pointed out many times during this podcast. Like, we aren't obliged to answer a question directly in the way expected in the books, or you know, like the answer can vary.
Absolutely. And I guess that's another thing that's quite important, especially when students have these like course books that they're getting better, but like it misses a lot of this sort of stuff. So having if you were introduced to English only through a bad course book, you would think that no one has a sense of humor who speaks English. It's a world of just answering questions. So I guess it's good to get students out of that space and remind them that the way people use a second language can be like much the way that you use your first language. You use it as a cultural and like a social tool.
And this is also, I guess, I mean, for me it was important. We know each other for a while, and you kind of introduced me quite a lot of humor stuff, like from different channels, like BBC Channel 4, whatever. Yeah, like to point out, like, I don't know, Peep Show, even I guess I discovered Monty Python with you, maybe just before, I don't know. But I remember like talking about it, and we kind of, so that kind of stuff is important as well, man. Like, otherwise, like, I guess someone might think that everyone is like Margaret Thatcher or like Queen, the Queen in England, if you just follow the books and the examples,
Margaret Thatcher just followed the books. yeah.
I mean, the way she speaks,
Yeah, it's very direct. Although, actually, to be fair, as much as I personally don't like her politics, she's pretty funny. She's got some great quotes. Like, she had a really good sense of humour.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But it was really dry, so you can't really see it. Like, especially if it's your second language. But she was pretty funny. She was pretty cool.
But you mean like sarcastically funny?
Very sarcastic, yeah.
That might be expected,
Yeah, she was pretty aggressive. Yeah. But yeah, so I think talking about this with students is good because, humour is such a big part of life. So we're touching on humour more, I guess, because it's important for us too. We're obviously into like funny things. But I think it can give students more of a sense of like
liberty
with the language. Yeah.
And indirectness, but without losing totally the thing.
Yeah. You don't have to like behave yourself when you're speaking English. Like, you can be cheeky and naughty and funny.
And also it's really good for learning expressions and stuff like that. Like maybe bad words and insults.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about swearing. Like swearing is probably flouting some maxims. Yeah. Hey, that was good, man. So, you want to hear the answer to the quiz?
Yeah,
the one question quiz. Okay. So the question was, can you remember?
No, I can't.
Okay, yeah.
So I got too much information.
Yeah. You've been really good, man. You've been on overload information, and it's all good. Okay, the question was, what is the longest word
without
vowels?
Without vowels.
Yeah, without A, E, I, O, U. And it's a good answer because we're both musicians, and it's related to music.
Wait,
you got it.
Is it like a Polish or Eastern European composer or something? Or does it
not
something to do with Europe, like Eastern Europe? Or?
That's a good guess because Polish is pretty consonant heavy. No, it's an English word. I don't know where it probably originates in Greek or maybe Latin. We can check afterwards.
Go for it. Super curious.
Okay, it's a major part of it's the language of music. Maybe like the second. Maybe there are two things in music that are like the most important things. Two things that define music. What would you say?
Oh, if you ask a question like that to a musicologist, I can think of 1,002 important things.
The form of music, like just to mathematically describe the form of music.
Different parts.
Well, we've got like tonality, I suppose.
Yeah.
Like tone.
Yeah, modes.
Yeah, modes and.
Rhythm?
Yeah, rhythm. That's it.
Oh, rhythm, yeah, okay. But that's a weird thing, because like in French, Y is a vowel. So that's why I didn't think of that. Actually.
Yeah, like officially Y isn't a vowel in English, but it kind of is, because it's a vowel sound. But it's not counted as a vowel. But yeah, rhythm's the one.
Yeah, rhythm. Yeah, it has a lot of... Each time I write it in English, I have to... check it out, I guess. Check online.
Yeah, it's hard to spell.
Right one.
Yeah,
there are a lot of H's and Y's and R's and
it doesn't make sense at all. Yeah, but yeah, that's it. Rhythm's the answer. The longest word in English with no vowels.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you everybody for listening. Thanks, Ollie, for doing that. That was cool.
Well, thank you, man.
Yeah. Now we
learned something.
We know all about Grice's maxims, and my bike will never be the same again after that. Okay, and there we have it. The rather deep and interesting and weird conversation about Grice's maxims with Ali, one of my oldest and bestest friends. So yeah, I mean, there's not much to talk about really after that. You know, it was all there in the podcast. If you were listening, then you got all the information I guess there is to get out of this. So I'll just
leave you be and sign off. Just remember, if you want an overview, there's a PDF on our website where you can get like a basic overview of Grice's maxims and all the things we talked about today. That's going to be on www.clarkandmiller.com. Find your way to the podcast page and you can get the PDF from there. Cool. Well, that's great. And until next time, thanks for listening.